first big idea, which is done before. I believe it is crucial for us to embrace the perspective that anything another person has overcome or accomplished is simply evidence that anything, and I mean anything, we need to overcome or want to accomplish is possible for us, no matter what our past or current circumstances. That's a very powerful statement. Whatever someone else has accomplished, we can do as well. It begins with accepting total responsibility for every aspect of your life and refusing to blame anyone else. The degree to which you accept responsibility for everything in your life is precisely the degree of personal power you have to change or to create anything in your life. And if we want our lives to change, first we must accept responsibility. It's a powerful tool, and it's really to make us feel powerful. We accept this responsibility and we automatically take ownership and we have power over our circumstances. Sometimes difficult situation in life can make us feel powerless to make a change. But if we can just sit back and remember, if anyone else has done it, so can we. They aren't wizards, and we don't need to be a wizard in order to make a change. We just need to follow a proven template, step by step, to make the changes that we want to make. So I want you to think about right now, while we're inside of this video, where are you feeling powerless to change right now in your own life? Are you stuck in a career that you don't enjoy? Are you unable to find a relationship that is meaningful for you? Is your business not getting off the ground? All of these things and more have been overcome by people far less capable than us, far less informed than us, and far less determined than you are. So how do we put this into action? This idea that we need to accept responsibility and do what has been already done before. Well, step number one, you might take an area in your life that you're feeling powerless to change. Step number two might be that if you can find someone who has overcome what you're dealing with and model, learn from them, find out what they did, where they were, where they found this information from. That's step number three, is read, watch, and study them to remember they're just a person, perhaps with more information or perhaps with less information than you. Step number four is to accept responsibility and follow their blueprint. Sometimes action is the only course that we have. That's why I was talking about sometimes those people had less information than we did. As human beings, sometimes we can seek information as a way to procrastinate on what we know we need to do. Did that person simply roll up their sleeves and get it done? That might be the right course of action for you. Remember, if it's been done before, it can be done again. If it's been done by someone else, it can be done by you. Our next point here is moment. This is one of the more important points in the book, and I've highlighted it here in yellow for you. Hal says, know that wherever you are in life right now is both temporary and exactly where you're supposed to be. You have arrived at this moment to learn what you must learn so you can become the person you need to be to create the life that you truly want. Even when life is difficult or challenging, well, especially when life is difficult and challenging, the present is always an opportunity for us to learn, grow, and become better than we've ever been before. You are in the process of writing your life story, and no good story without a hero or heroine overcoming their fair share of challenges. In fact, the bigger the challenges, the better the story. Think of Hercules. Since there are no restrictions and no limits to where your story goes from here, what do you want the next page to say? There are no restrictions and no limits to where your story goes. What do you want the next page to say? Accepting the present moment for what it is, an opportunity. The present moment is the opportunity. It's the only opportunity that we truly have. It might be the most important concept in self-development. I know it was for me. People who want to live their best life or write a great story often struggle with this accepting of the moment. They beat themselves up about where they are in the here and now. They worry that they aren't close enough to their goal, which is going to cause anxiety, it's going to cause depression, and all sorts of mental anguish. When you want to write the next great story with your own life, it can sometimes be difficult when you're only on chapter number 1. I believe the mind or the ego does this for a specific reason. It's been trained from a young age that if you don't measure up, you won't be rewarded. Think about this. This is school. This is most parenting. This is most entry level jobs. If you don't measure up, you won't be rewarded. Not only that, but it's been trained in you to be hard on you, hard on yourself, because it seems to be what makes you move. We're kind of trained that if you're not hard on yourself, you're not going to be motivated. There's actually some people out there that say, I don't want to be happy because if I'm going to be happy, I'm not going to be successful. I'm not going to be motivated. Think about how backwards that sounds. This, of course, is a source of motivation, this unhappiness, this feeling of not being worthy, this feeling of not being the final version of yourself and being upset about that. It's definitely a source of motivation. It's even a powerful one. However, it's extremely tiring and it will lead to burnout long term. And if you're experienced in this realm of kind of beating yourself up and using negative self-talk as your way to motivate yourself, it's likely that either you're very early on in your personal development journey or you know exactly what I'm talking about. The burnout, the being so tired that you just don't feel like doing it anymore, and falling out of love with something that you once couldn't wait to do. Those are all examples of burnout, and it's all examples of being motivated by your ego, being motivated by worrying about the end story rather than worrying about what chapter you're on right now. So, what's the other side? How else might we motivate ourselves if we're not going to motivate ourselves through a lack, if we're not going to motivate ourselves through not being good enough, if we're not going to motivate ourselves through looking at chapter number 47, the end of the book, and worrying about where we're currently at in our own book? It's really a simple process, and it really allows us to bring our full energy to our lives. If we're constantly worried about the ways that we don't measure up, we can't truly bring our full energy to create and to build whatever it is we're looking to build. Here's some of the steps that might be helpful to allow you to motivate yourself through compassion, to allow you to motivate yourself internally versus motivating yourself through the ego. First, I suggest that you accept that everything in the here and now is happening to you for a reason. Remember, that's what Hal said in the quote above. Accept everything in the here and now is happening to you for a reason. Another way to think about this is to say, everything in the here and now is happening for me rather than to me. The second thing that you might do is to understand that it's okay to have a preference for the outcome of the story that you want. But we can't compare ourselves, or we shouldn't compare ourselves in the here and now, in chapter number 1, to that finished story. That's kind of what we do, right? We say, okay, I don't even realize that I'm in chapter number 1 of this 47 chapter book. Instead, I think, why am I not on chapter number 47? Something must be wrong with me because I'm not at the end of my story. Third, we might think, instead of motivating ourselves by negative self-talk, we should be focusing on building our energy through movement, through correct eating, through meditation, and then finding joy in our work and doing miniature experiments to see what's going to work, to see what we can double down on, to see what might work in a business, to see what might work with our health and relationships. Experimenting is a very good mindset to come at it with because it makes it so that you can push a little bit, you can strive a little bit to get the experiment to pay off. But with an experiment, you have a hypothesis, and you don't really mind whether your hypothesis is proved correct or it's proved wrong. You just worry about the practice of the experiment. The experimenter's mindset is a really good way to continue to stay motivated without having to use that negative self-motivation that we talked about earlier. Our next big idea is about mornings. Figures we would talk about this because the book is called The Miracle Morning. The first two are really more about mindset, and now we're going to get into the practical, the action, something that I like to focus a lot on this channel. How you wake up each day and your morning routine, or lack thereof, dramatically affects your levels of success in every single area of your life. Focused, productive, successful mornings generate focused, productive, successful days, which inevitably creates a successful life. In the same way that unfocused, unproductive, mediocre mornings generate unfocused, unproductive, and mediocre days, and ultimately a mediocre quality life. By simply changing the way that you wake up in the morning, you can transform any area of your life faster than you ever thought possible. And what I took from this was that having a great day starts with having a great morning. Having a great month starts with having a great day. Having a great year starts with having a great month. And having a great life starts with a great year. So really, having a great life starts with a bunch of these great mornings. And if we can stack up a bunch of great mornings time after time after time, eventually that is what leads us to a great life. Not one particular event in our life, but rather a string of a lot of good mornings that lead to a lot of good days. It's all about bringing us back to the present moment again. Instead of focusing on what our great life or finished story looks like, let's focus on today. That's because one great day after another leads to that great life. I guess, in other words, once you focus on the line you're currently writing, the book finishes itself without intervention. So what does your morning routine look like right now? It's a good time for reflection. We're going to look at next exactly what the morning routine Hal recommends in the book is and how I've used that to adopt my own morning routine. But before we get into that, the what should I do portion of the book, so to speak, let's take a look. About what time do you wake up? Do you have a specific time that you wake up? What's the first thing that you do in the morning? Do you have a specific thing that you do in the morning? How do you spend your first hour or so? What's the sequence of things that you generally do? Have you had a plan for the sequence of things that you generally do, or do you leave it up to your whims on the day? All important questions to answer before we move into savers, which is the bulk of the book. What you're going to do in the morning to create this miracle morning is savers, a great little acronym. I love things that come in acronyms, easy to remember. Hal says in the book, in order to save your level 10 life from being neglected and limited by the demands of your life situation, which ultimately leads to a life of regret, unfulfilled potential, and even mediocrity, you must prioritize and dedicate time each day to your own personal development. Enter the Miracle Morning Savers, SAVERS, a set of 6 simple, life-enhancing, life-changing daily practices, each of which develops one or more of the physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual aspects of your life, so that you can become who you need to be to create the life you want. So I think this is very interesting. He's pulling in, okay, what are all the different areas in our life that we can maximize, that we can optimize, that we can make good so that if we can focus on one small area, the spiritual, the physical, the intellectual, the emotional aspects of our lives, that as a whole, they come together to create this great life or this great story, as we've been talking about it here today. Let's look a little deeper into the savers. First, it's SAVERS. The first S is for silence, A is for affirmation, V is for visualization, E is for exercise, R is for reading, and the second S is for scribing. Let's see what Hal has to say about silence in the beginning. One of my favorite ones. I'm glad it was the first thing. If you want to immediately reduce your stress levels, to begin each day with a kind of calm, clarity, and peace of mind that will allow you to stay focused on what's most important in your life, and even dance on the edge of enlightenment. Do the opposite of what most people do. Start every morning with a period of purposeful silence. The life-enhancing benefits of silence have been well documented through the ages. From the power of prayer to the magic of meditation, some of the greatest minds in history have used purposeful silence to transcend their limitations and to create extraordinary results. Silence has been a part of my morning routine, and you've heard me talk about it on the channel before, where I make my coffee in the morning, I sit down on the couch, I take some time, and I focus on drinking the coffee, completely without inputs, and I allow my thoughts to come up and slowly go away. One of the most important things I've ever done in my life is implement that quiet time, as I call it, or silence, as Hal calls it in the book. A is for affirmation. You can use affirmations to start programming yourself to be confident and successful in everything you do, simply by repeatedly telling yourself what you want to be, what you want to accomplish, and how you are going to accomplish it. With enough repetition, your subconscious mind will begin to believe what you tell it, act upon it, and eventually manifest it in your reality. Putting affirmations in writing makes it possible for you to choose your new programming so it moves you towards that desired condition or state of mind by enabling you to consistently review it. Constant repetition of an affirmation will lead to acceptance by the mind and result in changes in your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Since you get to choose and create your affirmations, you can design them to help you establish the thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that you want and need to succeed. Affirmations, a huge part of this positive self-talk. I did a book review on What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. I recommend that you check that out. An amazing, amazing concept of this positive self-talk, switching from negative self-talk to positive self-talk and the amazing benefits that it has in our lives. V, again, is for visualization. Visualization, also known as creative visualization or mental rehearsal, refers to the practice of seeking to generate positive results in your outer world by using your imagination to create mental pictures of specific behaviors and outcomes occurring in your life. Frequently used by athletes to enhance their performance, visualization is the process of imagining exactly what you want to achieve or attain and then mentally rehearsing what you'll need to do to achieve or to attain it. Something we've talked about quite a lot on this channel. I would quickly add to this visualization that you would want to rub it up against reality. Visualize yourself achieving the goal, but then also visualize what is it going to take for me to get there. E is for exercise. Morning exercise, of course, should be a staple in your daily rituals. When you exercise, even for just a few minutes every morning, it significantly boosts your energy, enhances your health, improves self-confidence and emotional well-being, and enables you to think better and concentrate longer. That's something that I didn't necessarily know or necessarily find important about exercise in the morning, but now that I've switched my morning routine to do just a small 10-minute workout first thing in the morning, not my longer 1-hour workout later in the day, but 10-minute workout first thing in the morning gets the blood flowing and helps me focus to a much higher level. R is for reading. Reading, the fifth practice, is the fast track to transforming any area of your life. Of course, I love this one. That's one of the reasons why you're on this channel, is because we're reading books together. It is one of the most important methods for acquiring the knowledge, ideas, and strategies that you need to achieve level 10 success in any area of your life. And this is actually going back to one of our previous points. If it's been done before, it can be done again. And to me, reading is, okay, I've done this, I've researched this, I've dedicated my life to this. This is how you should think about it. One of the most impactful things you can do is read a book by an expert that can actually show you what you're missing, what you need to achieve, what you're missing, and actually step by step how to go about it. So the key here is to learn from the experts, those who have already done what you want to do. Don't reinvent the wheel. The fastest way to achieve anything you want is to model successful people who have already achieved it. With an almost infinite amount of books available on every single topic, there is no limit to the knowledge you can gain through daily reading. I love daily reading. I would add to this, okay, I love a little bit of personal development reading first thing in the morning, fiction reading at night. Wow, game changer for me as far as fulfillment, as far as happiness, as far as creativity. Maybe the biggest change I've made in the last few months is reading fiction before I fall asleep. And our final S is for scribing. Writing in a journal each day with a structured, strategic process allows you to direct your focus to what you want to accomplish, what you're grateful for, and what you're committed to doing better. Thus, you more deeply enjoy your journey each day, feel good about any forward progress you made, and use a heightened level of clarity to accelerate your results. Again, something that I think has been a massive change in my life is just that daily journal. Something like what went well today, what didn't go so well, and what do I plan to do the next day is all extremely important. What's important to me, I write that down in the morning. What am I grateful for? Write that down in the morning. Very, very impactful. Our final point of the book is most important. Considering that our habits create our life, there is arguably no single skill that is more important for you to learn and master than controlling your habits. Something most of us probably don't think about is mastering our habits and controlling our habits is really a skill. You must identify, implement, and maintain the habits necessary for creating the results you want to get in life, while learning how to let go of any negative habits which are holding you back from achieving your true potential. So habits are extremely important. Again, we talked about before how habits are easiest to change first thing in the morning when our willpower bank is at its fullest. So what's that number one skill that we can learn? It's how to control our habits. Of course, we want to be able to break the ones that we need to break. We want to be able to adopt new ones that we know we should adopt. And I think a really good point here is go and read Atomic Habits by James Clear. Probably the best book on habits that I've ever read, and probably the best book on habits that really is out there. I've done a book review for it on this channel. I recommend that you go and check that book out. Very, very impactful on exactly how to change your habits and gives you kind of a step-by-step process about how to do it. We're going to go over a little bit of it right here, but that book is much more in depth if you're looking for some more information around habits. There is no faster way to change your life than to change your habits. Remember how those days stack up into years? Well, habits stack up the same exact way. If you have a habit of doing one particular thing day in and day out, it's going to stack up into years and into your entire life. Really, your life story is all about the habits that you have, not about the goals that you have. It's all about the habits that you have and the ones that you put into place and the ones that you break. So, how does Hal tell us to break our habits, or to change our habits, I should say? Well, there's a great chapter all about this in the book. 3 phases of habit creation. Each phase takes about 10 days or so. And again, Atomic Habits by James Clear echoes a lot of this, but it goes a little bit more in depth. Phase number 1 is unbearable. This phase is hard, and we don't like doing it, but we must persist. Let's say we want to exercise every morning for 10 minutes. The first few days, the first 10 days is absolutely unbearable. It's very hard to get going, but we must persist. Phase number 2 is uncomfortable. Okay, so it's not quite as bad as phase number 1, but it's still quite difficult. We still need to keep persisting. Phase number 3 is unstoppable. After 20 days or so, habits start to engage, and we don't need as much willpower to keep us going. We still must persist. We still must persist. Keep going. We build those habits up. After 30 days or so, it starts to become part of who we are, and it can take a little bit more time for more difficult habits, but the simpler ones, first thing in the morning, 30 days seems to be the sweet spot, at least for me.